Hello everyone, welcome to our second webinar of Dentca's 3D printable denture series. I am Dr. Yaron Gabel and I am Dentca's clinical advisor. Today's topic will be Dentca Denture Design Pre-Existing Denture Workflow, where we will be learning everything about the clinical and in-house lab flows for those clinicians who either have or are planning to get a 3D printer soon. We have the pleasure of having Ryan Renye take us on a journey as today's speaker and co-host. A bit of a background about Ryan. He graduated from the Dental Laboratory Technology program at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology in Nashville and is in the process of becoming a certified dental technician, or CDT. He has taken numerous courses and specialized on digital dentures, making it the primary focus of his career. He continues his learning while working at Churchill Hill Dental Care, where he oversees the removal department. He has been using the Denca materials as well as the Dentca Design platform for quite some time now, so he is very familiar with the digital dentures and their workflows from the clinical to the manufacturer side. And today we will be having a Q&A session after the lecture. So please write any questions you may have in the chat as you watch the presentation, and we will be happy to answer them at the end of it. Without further ado, here's Ryan Renye.
Hi, thanks. As he said, my name is Ryan Renye. I work over the removables and an in-house lab here in Tennessee. Today, I will be talking about the pre-existing denture workflow, basically from the chair side all the way to the in-house lab side. And this would be if a patient already has a denture that they like, that they're used to their bite. This is the way that we could go ahead and get them to the new denture that has that same quality. Then I'll be talking about the advantages of why we use Dentca Design platform. So the patient will come in and they'll want a new denture, but they like the way their old denture fits and their bite. What most people would usually do is they would want to make them the ideal or perfect, in quotes, denture setup, but most of the time they're more happy with the setup that they're more used to. Then we would take their old denture, we'd scan it, and you can use a desktop scanner is what we use. The patient would either sit in the waiting room chair or just sit in the room that they were in. Then this could take only about 10 to 15 minutes at max. It depends on how familiar you are with the scanner. Then you'd go ahead and take the impression, or you could either scan the opposing arch, and you would do this if this is a single denture as opposed to a full denture that you're doing for them. Then you'd go ahead and send that back to the in-house lab. Then the lab would go ahead and print. What we do is we print a duplicate of the old denture. We use gray model resin though, and we use a short-term in-mouth. And this would be mainly used for when we do a wash and you're using this as an impression tray. The reason we use the gray model resin is because this way you can tell the difference between the duplicated denture and the try-in denture, which would be in the white Denca try-in material later on. Then you'd go ahead and pour or print the opposing arch. This isn't needed now, but then it'd be good to go ahead and have for later on. Then you'd go ahead and send the duplicate up to the dentist for the wash. Then the dentist would, of course, take the wash in the duplicated denture. And then you would use the duplicated denture. That way you don't have to use the patient's actual denture, getting it all sticky from the adhesive. Then you'd use this as a reline to get it from any recession that's happened to get a better fit. Here's also when you'd want to go ahead and take the bite registration. Then you'd also want to record the tooth shade along with the denture base shade. And you'd want to make sure to go ahead and use the Denca shade guide because it can be a little off from any other shade guide, just that way you get the perfect shade. Then you'd go ahead and send this over to the in-house lab. Then this is when, if a new wash had been taken, we'd go ahead and pour that up in stone. If no wash was taken, then we would take the 2-part impression putty and we'd mix it together and put it in there to make a model that way, just because it has a faster set time and it needs little to no impression spray or scanning spray, and it scans really well, more so than a stone model would. Then after you do all the model work, you'd go ahead and scan the bite and the models. Then you'd upload that up to Dentca Design platform. You would go ahead and design your denture. Then you'd print your try-in denture, and you'd want to use the Denca try material, which is white material as opposed to the gray duplicated model resin. Then you would go ahead and send that up to the dentist, and in the upper right-hand corner is a picture of a duplicated denture that we've used, and no wash was needed, so we just went ahead and held it together with sticky wax for when we went to go scan it. And we also used the two-part impression material as kind of a makeshift bite registration, just to have more ease in getting them occluded. Then the third step is the patient would go ahead and try it in. The dentist would go ahead and check the bite, the smile line, tooth placement, everything as in a normal wax try-in would. The dentist will either confirm, or he would go ahead and list the refinements that are needed. If refinements are needed, then it would be sent back to the lab, and we would go ahead and redesign it and then reprint for a second try-in. If it is confirmed, then the lab would go ahead and fabricate the final denture. The bottom left two dentures, the one that is on the left that is the gray duplicated denture, and then the one to the right of it is the white try-in, and this basically just shows how similar you can get it to their pre-existing denture to ensure it's the same similar fit and bite to have the patient happy. So then this is when the lab would go ahead and fabricate the final denture. The lab would go ahead and print the base and the teeth. Then the way we go about processing the final denture is we would wash it out with the supports. We would take off the supports then after that washout. Then we'd wash it out for a second time, and this would help clean any excess resin that would be left from underneath the supports. Then we'd let that air dry for 30 minutes to about an hour. Then we'd go ahead and bond the teeth. We'd submerge the whole denture in glycerin, and then we'd cure it for the appropriate amount per side. Then for finishing and polishing, we would use a carbide burr to go ahead and grind off any sharp areas due to supports. We would use a medium grain polishing Scotch-Brite wheel, and this would help smooth any printing layers or any more rough edges that would be visible on the denture. Then we just go ahead and pumice and polish as if it were a regular acrylic traditional denture. Then we'd send that up to the dentist to deliver. This is where the dentist would deliver the denture to the patient. Here are just a few pictures of some of the digital dentures that we've delivered using Dentca Design. The bottom two left dentures, the lower left one is a original pink denture base with A2 shade, tooth shade. Then to the right of it is a light pink denture base with B1 tooth shade. And this kind of just shows the different variety that you can give the patient. And there's even more shades, but this is just kind of a really good contrast to show it's not all the same type. Then this slide is to show just all of these steps together for a quick reference if any pictures will need to be taken to see this workflow, if anything was liked from that. Then here are some of the advantages and reasons that we use Denca in our workflow over any other platform. The main one would be the price. You don't have to pay any annual fees, and it's a pay-per-case download. And because of this, you can try it out and learn with Denca without having to pay up front. Another thing is it's web-based, so you can have it on as many computers as you want, and you don't have to download any software. Then you can work on multiple cases at one time. Say you're working on one, and a rush case pops up, so then you could leave the one that you were previously working on, finish the rush case, then go right back to the previous case, and all your data is still there, nothing's lost. Then another main one would be the automatic festooning, and it gives you options for standard, light, or strong festooning, and you don't have to draw it in by hand for each area. Then the automatic posterior palatal seal, it gives you different options for measurements. Then also the options for adjustments, as in tooth reset, a new bite, new wash, which can serve as a reline for immediate cases. Then also how it stores the denture data. And this way, if sometime down the road, if you need to reprint the denture or you need any refinements, you have it in their system, and all you have to do is just re-download it and then reprint it. Then here is both my email and Dentca's email for if there's any extra questions after the presentation's over that might pop into your head. But this is the way that would be the best way to contact both of us. So now we're going to open up the chat for any questions. Give me a second and I'll go ahead and pull that up. So this says, why wouldn't you scan the impression itself in the denture? You can, and we go ahead and pour the models, that way we have reference to look at by hand. But you can easily go ahead and after you could scan the denture after taking the wash and then just go ahead and invert that model and just go ahead without having to do any stone model work or anything. Just go ahead and do it that way. And if that is all the questions, I will go ahead and unmute Dr. Gabel. I think I may have already.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes. First of all, I want to thank Ryan for kindly providing us with this lecture. It's always interesting to see different workflows from both the clinical side and the laboratory side. We get a lot of questions from people that have a dental office, but they also want to start manufacturing dentures in-house. So I think this lecture is pretty great on that end because it kind of gives you both perspectives. As for the question that popped, yes, you can actually scan the impression itself if you have a laboratory scanner or an intraoral scanner. Next session in April, we're actually going to be talking a lot about record taking and which ones are the best methods for registering all your records, from the most analog way to the most digital way. We're going to be talking all the way from the perspective of immediate dentures, implant over dentures, and conventional dentures. So if you're interested in those topics, stay tuned, and we're going to be talking all about that in the next session, which is going to be pretty clinically focused and not on the laboratory side anymore, as the last two lectures have been. I believe there's a new question here that says, will you have a session in the Denca software itself? We will. The session that will be happening, I believe, in May is going to be covering the Denca software itself, and we're also going to be talking about troubleshooting different issues that could come up with or different hiccups that could happen with the Denca software itself. So please stay tuned for that as well. And if you want to get a head start on reading a little bit about the Denca software, we have a fantastic video on DencaDesign.com, which gives you a little bit of a run through of how everything works. But yes, we will be covering the software and all the benefits in the following lectures as well. And the last lecture will be covering a little bit about why 3D printed dentures make sense, how they're profitable, and why they're good to have as an option in both your clinic and your laboratory, which is going to be a great topic for DSOs as well. If you're part of a DSO or if you own a DSO, that's where you want to be. Well, it seems like there's no more questions, so I want to thank everybody for attending today, and please don't hesitate to email us or give us a call if you have any question. Thanks, everyone.